If you are trying to pick between ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Grok right now, you are probably getting a different answer from everyone you ask. I tested all four properly, and the honest truth is most people are using the wrong one for what they actually need. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which one to use and why. Let's start with ChatGPT. It is still the most used AI assistant on the planet, and that is not a fluke. The current model is GPT 5.4, and it is the best all-rounder in this comparison by a clear margin. Writing, coding, data analysis, brainstorming, summarizing, it handles all of it at a high level without cracking. If you only want to pick one tool, ChatGPT is still the safest choice in 2026. Not because it wins every category, it does not. But it does not lose badly in any of them either. And for most people, that consistency is worth more than being brilliant at one thing and average at everything else. The practical edge is the ecosystem. ChatGPT integrates with Microsoft 365, Slack, Zapier, and hundreds of other tools in ways the other models simply do not match yet. GPT 5.4 can also operate a desktop directly, clicking, scrolling, executing tasks, and it does so at a 75% success rate on the OS World benchmark, which is actually above the human baseline of 72.4%. For anyone building automated workflows, that is a real capability, not a demo feature. Free plan works without a credit card. Paid plan is $20 a month. The honest weak spot is the long-form writing. You feel it when you push ChatGPT on extended prose. It writes competently. It does not write naturally. That distinction matters a lot depending on what you use AI for. Next is Claude, and I want to be upfront that this is the model I use most for this channel. On expert reasoning tasks, Claude Opus 4.6 scores 1,606 ILO, which is the highest in this comparison. It outputs up to 128,000 tokens in a single response, which is roughly double any other model here. For long scripts, long documents, and long analyses, Claude has runway that the others run out of. But the benchmark that actually matters for most creators is simpler than any of that. When you use Claude for writing, it sounds like a person wrote it, not like a machine producing plausible sentences. That gap between Claude and everything else on this list is the most important practical difference for anyone making content. Feed Claude an entire research paper or a long article, and it synthesizes it at a depth that other models do not consistently match. The context window sits at 200,000 tokens, which means you can work with material that would break other models mid-session. But here is where most people get this wrong. They hear that Claude is the best writing model and assume best overall. It is not. The integrations are thinner than ChatGPT. Web browsing is still in beta, and the session limits tightened in early 2026 in ways that hit heavy users during peak hours, which we covered that in detail in the last video. Best for writing, clearly. Best for everything, no. If you are a creator or you do primarily writing and research, you have already heard the two tools that matter most for your use case. The next two get more specific. Gemini keeps surprising people who write it off as just Google's version of ChatGPT. Gemini 3.1 Pro scores 94.3% on GPQA Diamond, which is the graduate-level reasoning benchmark, and that is the highest score of any model in this comparison. On abstract reasoning, scientific questions, and high-level analysis, Gemini is genuinely ahead of the field right now. The context window sits at 2 million tokens, which is the largest here by a significant margin. If you are working with massive codebases, long research archives, or anything that requires holding enormous amounts of context at once, Gemini is the only model in this comparison that can handle it without breaking. The advantage most people actually feel day-to-day is the Google integration. If you live in Gmail, Docs, Sheets, and Drive, Gemini comes to where you already are rather than asking you to change your workflow. The real-time web access is also excellent for research on fast-moving topics. And the free tier is the most generous of any model here. Where it falls short, the writing is capable but clinical. You feel the difference compared to Claude on anything where tone matters. For code, it writes functional solutions that sometimes need cleanup, whereas Claude tends to write cleaner first drafts. If you are inside the Google ecosystem, Gemini absolutely belongs in your toolkit. If you are not, the case for it weakens considerably. The last one is Grok, and it is the most polarizing model on this list and probably the most misunderstood. It is fast, responses in 1 to 3 seconds, noticeably quicker than the others in real use. It runs a 4-agent architecture where multiple instances collaborate internally on each task, which produces a different quality of reasoning output than a single model working alone. On SWE bench coding scores, it actually leads this comparison at 75%, and it matches Gemini's 2 million token context window. The differentiator nobody else can replicate is live access to the full X platform. Grok can pull breaking news, trending conversations, current sentiment, and real-time public data in a way that ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini simply cannot. For anyone tracking trends, monitoring conversations, or researching current events, that access is a genuinely meaningful advantage. The API is also the most cost-effective at $2 per million input tokens. The real limitations, though, if you are not active on X, most of that integration benefit disappears. The analytical depth on complex, nuanced tasks lags behind both Claude and Gemini. And the less filtered conversational style that some users love makes others distrust the outputs. For heavy developer use or real-time social listening, Grok earns its place. For general content creation and research, it works better as a secondary tool. Here is the fastest version of this comparison before the full verdict. Writing goes to Claude and it is not close. Versatility goes to ChatGPT. Research and reasoning goes to Gemini. Speed and real-time data goes to Grok. That is the short answer. The longer answer is how I actually use them. Claude is my primary tool for scripting and anything where quality of writing matters. ChatGPT is where I go when I need range or when integrations matter. Gemini is open whenever I need to verify something current or work inside Google Docs. Grok I check when I want a faster, less filtered take, or when I am tracking something happening on X in real time. Most serious users in 2026 run 2 models, not 1. The most common pairing is Claude and ChatGPT, and that covers around 90% of what most people actually need. If you are serious about using AI for real work, picking the right combination matters more than picking the right single tool. Start with those 2 and add from there once you know where your gaps are. If this kind of breakdown saves you the time of testing all for yourself, that is the whole point of this channel. Subscribe and I will keep doing the testing. See you in the next one.